right. Well, thank you guys for coming. I think it's Keith told me it's day 101 on the job for myself and several others. So just want to touch base with you guys before we head into spring ball and obviously spring break next week. Just want to take this moment and just to thank a couple people. I want to thank the players. I think they've worked really hard. It's been a really good 7 weeks heading into this week, which is our team commitment week, which I can detail for you if you have interest. I want to thank our creative team. I have 3 kids back in Charlotte who can't be here right now, and I think Jordan Litton and Nick Burkhart and their whole staffs have done a great job of giving small snippets of how hard our guys are working out to hopefully the fans, recruits, families, and I know my family's grateful for the job that those guys do. I want to thank the winter sports. It's been pretty cool watching Silas win the Big Ten championship yesterday in wrestling, watching men's and women's basketball, beach volleyball, just all the sports, watching them all compete. And I know our team has probably seen more sports competitions this winter than they had previous, and I think it's really good to be part of this campus community, this athletic community. And then, as I've gone around the state, the one thing that's really hit me, and I wanted to say it, and I mean this with elite humility and appreciation, is I want to thank the fans. They've been, and I'm just been here a small time, but they've been coming to Memorial Stadium and supporting this football team for a long time. And as you talk to people, I just want to make sure they know that we're grateful and we're thankful, and we're working hard to earn the right to enjoy next season, to compete next season. We're trying to live by the whole mindset of day by day and not getting too far ahead. And we want them to know that we appreciate when they spend their money to come watch us play. And they've been doing it for a long time. We can't promise them anything other than the fact that we're going to work really hard today. But I want to make sure that they know from me, from myself to our staff to the football program, we know how long they have waited for Nebraska football to play the way that we all believe it's capable of playing. And we're not there yet, but we'll try to honor their patience and their loyalty with our work. So I wanted to make sure I said that. So with that, I'll see if you guys have any questions.
What's your priority this spring ball?
We came into the offseason feeling like we wanted to build strength and mobility. I think we have. Feeling like we wanted to learn the process and that we're going to undertake, and wanting to build a sense of brotherhood amongst the team. I think we've made a lot of steps in that direction. I think now it's just time to really, that process, take that over into football. In our program, practice is everything. It's the most important thing that we do. And, whereas people focus on the results, we try to focus on the things we can control, which is the way that we practice, the attention to detail. And what I'm finding with this team is they're highly, highly, highly competitive. But sometimes the small details, as do with most 18 to 22-year-olds, they get away from us a little bit. So can we take our sense of competitiveness, our toughness? This is a tough group. Can we take that competitiveness and that toughness and carry it over onto the football field and also add in precision and detail? If we can be really competitive and tough but also detailed and precise, we have a chance. And so I'm anxious to start that process on the football field with the guys. And then I think it's just for each, our job is to help each player find a way to get on the field and be in the right position. So try to teach those guys as best we can.
Matt, who's been the most impressive and maybe stood out during winter offseason?
Yeah, I'm not here to isolate any one guy or any group. There's a select group of guys that have really, really been good. They've earned the most black jerseys throughout the offseason. 2 of those guys, Thomas Fedoni and Chief Borders, I've asked to come talk today. I wouldn't say that they're the best, but we had an off-season competition that we do. Thomas was the captain of that team, and in probably 6-7 years of doing this, one of the best captains I've ever seen in terms of willing his team to victory. And then Chief, as a new player, I think he was the leading point getter. He and Teddy were tied, and so I elected those guys to come. But I couldn't say I'd actually flip it. There's not very many guys that I'm not happy with. I think a lot of guys have paid a significant price this offseason. I just have to get to the football now and see who can actually do it on the football field too. But I thought the offseason was really good in terms of the holistic group.
Can you give us some more details about that offseason competition?
Yeah, so we divided up into teams. We selected some veteran guys to be captains. And then we went for 7 weeks, and it's everything from, gaining points for community service, for attending other teams' events, for competitions, for community service. It's lost points for missing study halls, being late to things, and so it's really, whereas most football teams are based upon your physical ability, you learn very quickly that, hey, your accountability and your ability to do what you say you're going to do is really important. And we want to be a team that when we play, we don't beat ourselves. So we're, measured against rewarded gets done. Rewarding guys for doing the right thing and going above and beyond. What it also does is guys break out of their cliques, their friend groups, and they start to get to know each other and start to value each other for their contributions, not necessarily always physical, but also personal. So that goes on for several weeks. Ed Foley runs it, he does a great job. They have redrafts. You can, protect the player. There's some different things that they do. And that leads us into this week. So Thomas's team won, came down the stretch, and they blew it out the last week. And then on Friday, we selected new teams. They all selected a Twitter handle. We go into what we call Team Commitment Week from Friday to Friday. And it's 1 week of, there are no, the only rule is there are no rules. You get points for doing, good things. You lose points for missing things. There's team competitions every morning, optional team building activities at night. It's just a great chance for us all to get to know each other, not just as football players, but as people.
Are there physical elements to it too? Are they competing in physical type?
Yes, yeah, they did that this morning. And there were some things along the way in the other competition. The other competition's a little bit kind of a lead into this, and this is everything. So, guys, the first time around, some guys pick their team based upon their position group, staying loyal, or their friends, and they learn pretty quickly. Like, I better have a big guy, better have some fast guys, I better have some guys who are on time all the time. Hey, you're my boy, but you don't seem to get anywhere on time, so I'm not picking you. So I won't tell you who Mr. Irrelevant was, but it was a guy who started here last year. So it was pretty important that those guys, or one of the last guys, it's important that guys start to realize, like, hey, if my physical ability can match my accountability, and that can be joined with availability, then I can be a pretty good player. And so, we always want to talk about people's physical ability or their recruiting or their production. That's great, but tell me how accountable they are, and then tell me how available they are, and I'll tell you if they're a good player. So it's a fun time for me.
How many weeks did it take for the team to really catch on to the accountability piece in the way that you envisioned it?
Quickly. These guys are really, really competitive. So, I think if you talk to the other athletes on campus, I think we had I showed up to a tennis match. I think we had 30 football players at a tennis match. So that's sort of hey, we can do things to earn points. Sometimes some guys can be too cool for school. These guys weren't. They wanted to do this, and I did a similar thing. And Christian McCaffrey was fight, scratch, and clawing to win. So it's good players like to win. I've just learned that over the years, and so. These guys, but I think it's guys like Thomas, Fedoni. It's guys like Chief and all those guys. They really drove this thing, and we had to replace a captain or two because they weren't quite doing everything right. This was good for our team to realize that when who you say you are is the same as who you actually are, what you actually do. You're living a pretty good life, and when you're not, it gets exposed. So it's been fun, but it was pretty quick, to be quite honest.
What type of leader is Fidel that you've seen? Is he vocal? How is he?
Yeah, I'm really careful, about the vocal thing. What we don't need is a bunch of spokespeople, right? I watched the highlight tape from last year. We put it together, so no knock on anyone else. Our guys put it together. It's all people giving speeches in the locker room. If you got to give a speech in the locker room, it usually means you're getting your tail beat. You know what I mean? So, to me, leadership is who's the first guy in the building, the last guy to leave, who does everything right. I said I wasn't going to signal people out, but I will say, who's a great leader in his own way is Brian Buschini, probably the toughest specialist. And I'll get some text messages from some guy. Brandon McManus is probably going to call me here in an hour after saying this, but one of the toughest specialists I've ever seen. And so when you have guys like that competing at a really high level, it just drives everyone around them. And so, I think we have some good guys. But Fedoni, he just wants to win. And so, the last week, you had to get all your teammates if you got all your teammates to a match and took a picture, you got double points. And trying to get 10 other college students to show up at something at the same time is hard, right? And it seems, what does that mean? Well, I know it means something to the other student athletes to have people there watching them, but I think you got 11 people to the beach volleyball match and took a picture, and so he just finds a way to get it done. He likes to win. He's very competitive.
Hey, Matt, how limited will Casey Thompson be for you this spring? Is he going to be able to throw and do some things?
I don't know that yet. I think we're hoping that he'll be able to throw, but he'll be pretty limited. I don't see him. and we'll err on the side of caution with all these guys, right? But I don't see him being able to do very much other than potentially at some point being able to throw.
And has there been any other roster movement as far as guys moving on or stepping away over the last month or two?
Yeah, we put them all up right away. I mean, I'm being pretty transparent. We could have done the old, hide the depth chart till the very end. But some guys have made some decisions, and they've been awesome, right? No one's left in a bad way. They've all, some guys just wanted to concentrate on school or do some other things. So, nothing other than anything that we've put out. Nothing else.
Back to Fedoni, what were your early impressions of him, especially as he's working back from the injury?
Well, just the first time I saw him move, I was like, wow. He's kind of like long, lanky, athletic. Like I saw him running, around some cones and make a cut. You could see the athleticism, explosiveness. Doesn't look like a guy who's ever been injured. Just looks healthy and all those things. I've tried to get to know him. Jamari Butler and I went out to dinner one night downtown. Had a chance to sit there and visit with him. You can see he's got a love for the game and wants to be a great player. And then, like I said, he's competitive. Like if you get those things, you have a chance. But he looks healthy to me. He won't like it, but I always feel like it takes time after an ACL, and ACLs will happen. I always feel like my job is to try to prevent repeat ACLs, which he's had. So we'll probably be a little bit smart with him in spring ball.
Since Chief is coming up here, what did you like about him when you brought him in, and how have, I guess, the transfers in general blended with the guys who are returning? And maybe it's not a big deal since it's year one for everybody as much.
I think that's a true statement. I think it's year one for everybody, right? So no one really has any idea. The staff has no idea. Like during team commitment week, I won't even send the schedule out to the staff. They got to wake up sometimes the staff's way worse than the players in terms of wanting to know, they get anxious more than anybody else. But I think our transfers have all come in. They've all been, I think, happy to be here, appreciative to be here. It's a great place. Everyone welcomes them in. It can be difficult sometimes to adjusting to a new protocol, new process, but that's what everyone's doing. And but I think Chief is someone that what I love about him is he is who he is. I don't want our guys just to be football players, and so Chief is somebody who he's sitting in the back, so I have to be careful how nice I talk about him, right? But I think he's a TikTok star. He's elite in the community. He gives back to people. Here's one thing I know. Wherever Chief ends up on a given day, that place will be better for him being there. And that to me is a real mark of a man. And so, I think sometimes guys come off to college and they have interests outside of football and they just get pushed into this, hey, just be a football player. And I don't want that, man. I'm not just a football coach. So I think he brings a lot of elements to the team that I think are really important. But he shows up every day and works hard, and he's doing well in school, I believe. All right. So no, he's been great to have here.
How big a deal is it to you during the conditioning part, you have those jerseys that sort of separate guys and having those categories that drive people?
Yeah, that's really for the mat drill. What we want is we want them to have elite feedback every day. It takes about 2 hours for the staff, and we watch every single rep of the mat drill, and we grade guys, and they're getting feedback, right? Like, to me, when people say power corrupts, I've always felt like powerless corrupts. When you're powerless to change your situation, when you feel like, hey, no matter what I do, I'm just going to always be this. So there's going to be transparency and there's going to be honesty. It's going to be very, very direct. I've learned over the years, you can be direct without, attacking somebody. So this is one way. It's you have a great day, you're in a black jersey. You don't have a great day, you're in a red jersey. It's been fun for me, this being my fourth head coaching job, seeing guys on social media from here talking to guys from Baylor, talking to guys from Temple, and them all talking to guys from Western Carolina about the mat drills, about pushing prowlers and all that. So that part's been fun because there's this common experience of, hey, this is hard to go through, but they get feedback every day. And again, if you make things with these guys, if I say, hey, let's go run 10 40-yard dashes, they'll do it. They might not like it, but if I say, hey, let's see who the fastest is, they'll run 50 of them to keep trying to prove who's the. So if we make it competition, and that's what the jerseys do, then they'll compete at it and they'll fight for it.
You mentioned wanting to build mobility, and not just strength, but mobility. What was your assessment of the team's movement skills or movement quotient in last year's?
I don't know about last year when I got here. I think we felt like after watching them early on, and again, it's you're getting guys after they went home and ate with 3 home cooked meals with mom every day, and it's a new way of doing things. But I know we felt like there was a lot of there was a lot of opportunities for improvement, and it could be a real area to separate us in terms of, really getting full ranges of motions on some things and movement on some things. That being said, this is a pretty fast team. Sometimes, we do everything off the GPS, and our GPS speeds are fast, and so if I told you who the fastest guys on our team were, you'd probably be surprised. There's some guys that that can really move. I think Chuba and Heinrich are two of the fastest, if not the fastest guys on the team. So, in terms of the GPS numbers. So, but I think we felt like that was an area of an opportunity. And again, if you're really, really strong but not flexible and can't move, it doesn't really matter. And if you're really, really fast and athletic but not strong, you're not going to be durable. So it's this combination, and that's sort of that's sort of things I've learned. I kind of grew up in a world of just get strong and be tough, and it's not really the world anymore, right? So just that movement, and also that movement efficiency, right? I think one of the best things that we can do, again, is availability, and I'm not going to put that on the players. We put that on us first. We can't have our best players not out in the field. They've got to be healthy, and so that starts with movement quality, gets into regeneration, and there's been an investment, from the athletic department here, with the new building, to make sure that we have the very best of the best in terms of recovery, regeneration, keeping guys healthy.
Casey's had a history of just playing through stuff. He's tough. Have you had to rein him back a little bit and just say, I want you to be as healthy as you possibly can instead of trying to throw through any sort of, injuries?
I think he's been very diligent about doing what he's allowed to do. We haven't had that. He might be doing things on his own that I don't know about, but obviously with the rules in college football, we can't throw with them. So he's been diligent. All the guys have been good, and Drew Hamblin stepped in as the interim ATC and done a great job. I mean, he and his staff have done a fantastic job with these young men and helped them. But I'm sure everyone wants to be healthy, but it's really important they come back, and again, re-injury is the biggest, to me, is the biggest no. We don't want to have re-injury, so we have to make sure things are thoroughly healed.
How physical do you think your spring is going to be when you kind of break it down from what you know?
Physical. Yeah, it'll be physical. Yeah.
Like how much live to the ground?
We'll have a couple, scrimmage days. The NCAA has rules. We won't be, again, we're not going to be wanton. We're not going to be dumb. It's just, to me, it's all about the quality of the contact. We're going to have, we believe in playing with dominant contact, and so we'll drill that way. We'll rep that way. I'm not a big helmet, shoulder pads, no pants guy. We'll either be in helmets or we'll be in pads, and so to me, there'll be live days, there'll be non-live days. We'll follow all the rules and do all that, but I just think it's the quality of contact, right? Even when we're thudding, we won't be tagging guys off. We won't hit them from the side or from the back, but, we won't go to the ground on days we're thudding, but we're going to strike, and we're going to, to me, these guys are young, they're getting trained. They're not getting coached, they're getting trained. You get coached at the next level. Right now they're training themselves on how to block, how to tackle, how to get off blocks, and so we have to train that, and the only way to do that is do it repetitively. So I think it'll be physical, but it won't be caveman-like. We're not going to go out there and just have a bloodbath. We're going to be smart, because we do. The greatest gift I can give our players is health, and so I want to keep them healthy, but I also want to turn them into the best player they can be.
When recruiting quarterbacks in the 2024 class, I know you can't give any specific names, but have a high-profile recruitment. They're the number one target, whatever designation you want to give it. When you have a target like that, and quarterbacks are traditionally want to be committed earlier in the class, and looks like top guy might take this thing deep in the recruiting cycle. What's just your overall approach when recruiting that quarterback position, especially for this upcoming class?
It's probably too granular for me to not get in trouble by answering that much. I would say, in general, I always want every student athlete that I recruit to come because they want to come for the right reasons at the right time. And I don't get caught up in, I need this guy to get this guy. That's not me. This is my vision for you. 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 This is our process, and lay it out. I miss the best success I've had is the old way of recruiting, where I saw a kid in the senior year and had a chance to watch him. So it gets earlier and earlier and earlier. It's not really my way of doing things, but I'm modern me. I got to keep up with the times. So I just don't. I don't want anyone coming because they feel like they have to come, and at the same time, I also don't want to sacrifice other things. So I don't worry too much about it. To me, this is each young person's journey, and I want them to do it for the right reasons and come here for the right reasons. So that level of strategy to me it's really more about the thing. I'm going to be careful how I say this. it's never about who we don't get. It's always about who we get. Does that make sense? It's never about who we don't take. It's always about who we take. And so I want to make sure that guys that we take, whether we take 10, 15, 20, 25 next year, that we take them all, the right guys for the right reasons that want to be here. That, to me, when you're really transparent, like I want people to come watch us practice. Like I don't know how you could commit to play for me without watching me at a mat drill or at a practice, because I am who I am. I'm not changing on the field for anybody. And Terrence Knighton's not changing for anybody. And so I want people to see it, because some people will love it, right? Some people will be like, wow, they're going to maximize me. Some people, like, they want a different vibe. And so I want them to see it, know it. And so I think, hopefully we have a really good recruiting class. Hopefully it goes through this year, goes through the spring. But I think people would be smart to come watch us practice and figure out if this is the right place for them.
Matt, have you enjoyed watching that defensive staff kind of brainstorm with Tony White and as they put their ideas together?
Yeah, it's Tony's got a quiet confidence to him that I like, but a real humility in terms of, like, hey, previously, I mean, we were pretty good on defense in places we've been too. So, like, hey, how did you guys do this? And I think it shows a real strength of Tony that he would take a job as the coordinator and have the other three coaches all be not tied to him, but tied to me previously. But he's confident in who he is and in who his system is, and brought in some great analysts. Coach McGarry's been doing this a long time. He brought in two guys, Josh Bringwell and Jack Potenza. I did not know them. I mean, the greatest compliment I can give both of them is if Tony left or I would hire them again. They're fantastic. And so, but it's been fun. I think it's going to be unique. And again, the most important thing to me is that they're watching the players and how they do things, right? Like, are we a 4-3? Are we a 3-4? Are we a man team? Are we a zone team? His system has the flexibility to get to all that, but I need to see we have a lot of defensive backs. I got to see what guys can do this spring, and then really figure out, hey, this is the system that'll give our guys the best chance.
Is there a lot of learning that must transpire? I mean, that Tony White is he effectively teaching his defense to these coaches?
Yeah, I would say it that way. I think he has his system and his verbiage. They have to learn that. Then also learn all all the coaching points. Hey, when we were in our 3-down stuff and the guard pull, we ran through the backside A gap. No, not on this one. Now okay. So just that level of detail is difficult, right? Like even Sat was with me, and he's calling plays for me at Temple. He was with me at Baylor. Was with me in Carolina. Now he's sitting here. All right, he calls it this, but he changed it in Carolina. So we're all having to get the verbiage where we're using precise language precisely. So I think there's a learning curve for all of us. We're all coaching in the morning, recruiting, and before we can teach, we need to learn. And I try to be the most flexible one. Like I'm not getting involved in Tony's defense right now. I'm listening, learning, and then when the time comes, I'll have my 2 cents. But to me, that's the best thing is like just let us all get on the same page, and once we're all on the same page, then we can make the tweaks we need to really take advantage of the guys we have.
Coach, how would you describe yourself during a practice? Kind of just an observer going from station to station, or will you get in there, put your hand on the ground, and be very hands-on?
Is this when the cameras are out there, or when it's you guys aren't out there? No, I'm just. I'll tell you. No, I feel like, and I stole this from someone years ago. But I feel like leaders insert themselves at the points of most friction. I think the program gave that to me. That made sense to me. So like I'm by trade an O-line, D-line guy, like linebacker guy. Like that's where my heart is. So like, if I see something I don't like, I'll or if they're struggling in an area, there's been years I've taken the D tackles for, indies on Wednesdays or Tuesdays or whatever. But I like to get around. I like to listen to the coaches teach and coach. I'm probably obsessed with the teaching. I think coaches should teach with the Socratic method in their meeting room. So I like to listen. I like to walk in. I don't like to get infringe. I don't like to take over people's meetings, but I like to listen. And I think the best thing you can show people as a coach is that you're coachable, right? That you can take critique. And so I would like to think when you see me at practice, I'm different a little bit at different times. Like there'll be times where I'm quiet. There'll be times where I'm setting the tone. I try to bring in what the team needs at that moment. And kind of like a parent, my dad used to always say to me, like, hey, as a father, you should always look at your kids and see what shape of love they need at that moment. Like if the team isn't like today they weren't listening great early on, and I snapped, and then they're going really hard and I'm cheering. So to me, I'm just going to kind of be who I am. Practice is the most important thing in our program, not recruiting, not weightlifting, not the off season, not travel, nothing. Practice is the most important thing in our program, and so I'm going to. I take that very seriously, and I defend practice at a high level. So I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. Rather than I can't wait for spring ball. I can't wait for spring practice. This is my favorite time of the year. This is my favorite time of the year. You know, people ask me all the time how we're going to be next year and all this stuff. Like, we're just going to try to earn the right to enjoy next season, right? Like, we're going to try to earn the right to go into a game week feeling like, hey, we have a chance to win. And that only happens, you know, at 6 a.m. in the morning or in our spring practices. So I think I used to be a pretty good football coach. Now I'm a head coach. It's a lot different. But every once in a while, I do try to get my hands dirty.
Matt, this time of year, so far, games are so far down the line, you haven't even practiced yet. Is this the time that you can really determine who really loves football, and can you tell who doesn't?
I think you can always tell if someone really doesn't, but sometimes, sometimes we got to be careful with young people. Like, we put a lot of labels on kids at 17, 18, 19, man. Like, people tell me, oh, this guy doesn't love football, he loves. Sometimes they're just not confident. Sometimes they got something going on at home. Like I'm just really careful about the labels I put on kids, like, because I've seen it so often be the wrong way. Before I make, I say that, I like to really dive in. But sometimes some kids, they just don't love football, but they're good at it, right? We'll use it to get what you can get out of it. Some kids really, really, really love football. The point I make to our team all the time is, you start looking at lates and stuff like that. Kids who are late. Very rarely is a non-scholarship player at the University of Nebraska late to anything. They're paying to come to school to be on time to everything, and I think it's been pretty humbling for some of our other guys, and our team has really come a long way in that. But I think you can see a lot about who guys are this time of year, because you have to love something about it to show up every single day and do the hard things we're asking them to do. All right, good to see everybody. Thank you.